Thank you. Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. Okay, let's roll. We've got 20 minutes to talk about the future of transportation around the world. So I'm going to take you on a pretty rapid trip in terms of where things are going. And I actually get to talk about the Jetsons finally, so someone does to deal with it. A couple of quick background on me. I moderate I've got a podcast I've been doing for several years, The Voices of the Internet of Things, where we interview industry leaders, technology leaders, innovators, and so forth. I've written a number of books, but there's some of them. Over the years, business books. Basically, I track emerging technology, and I have for my whole career. The CES is a big event in Las Vegas every January. It has 150,000 attendees, and I'm one of the judges for the Innovation Awards, which is, if nothing else, is a lot of fun because I get to see everything that's coming out. I've already judged for 2026, so I've already seen what's coming out next year. And it's all NDA, but it's still really interesting. And this is a daily newsletter I do on flying vehicles. If anybody wants to subscribe to this, the QR code is right there. It's free. We don't spam you or anything. We don't share your name with anybody. It comes directly from me, not somebody else. And you can quit at any time. But if you want to look at flying vehicles and where they're going, that's where to go. A few years ago, I started to identify that flying vehicles or the electric aerial revolution was coming, and it was coming pretty fast. Although it's been 15 years in development, it looks like it's coming fast. So I started researching it, and ultimately I wrote a book about it, which has been selling all over the world. And what I did a lot of case studies of companies that are building these things and developing them, and looked at the whole infrastructure, the low altitude economy and so forth, and then try to document it for a lot of people, because people I would run into, I'd tell them about flying vehicles, they'd say, "You're crazy, that's not happening." I'd say, "Yeah, you're right," and just say, "Forget about it." So I'm going to talk today about the electrical aerial revolution. And you've heard about eVTOLs, which is kind of the world's worst acronym, electric vertical takeoff and land. It's just dreadful. I try not to use it. I'd like to use the really electric aerial vehicles. They're flying things that are electric. And there's a low altitude economy, and some of the characteristics of this economy are they're electric. They take off and land vertically. They go straight up and down, kind of like a helicopter, except straighter and quieter. They don't need an airport, although typically they start at an airport because they have the infrastructure already. They fly at a few thousand feet, not 30,000 feet, and it's a global phenomenon. It's happening in Orlando. It's happening on the west and the east coast of Florida. It's happening in California. It's happening in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, China, Singapore. It's happening everywhere, and I've documented a lot of these cases. So the realities of the market are there are going to be winners and losers, but it's going to be the market that determines who the winners and losers are. There's a really high cash burn rate. It's very expensive to keep these things going. So they're going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions. They've already started. And there will be pivots where a company will say, we were doing this, but we're actually going to do this now because this is really not going to work in the market. So we're going to use this. And a lot of this is timing. A lot of this is the time they're coming out right now. It's not because everyone just in the last year said, hey, let's go build a flying thing. It's because they've been in development for 10 or 15 years. So this is not a new thing. It's just that battery technology has gotten better, propellers have gotten better, electric motors have gotten better, and it's now coming to fruition. We'll talk about regulation a bit because there's the development and then there's the actual execution of it. Some of the failures, this is Lilium Jet. They spent $1.5 billion, and 2 weeks ago they sold their patents. They went belly up, sold their patents to Archer for $21 million. So let me suggest, I'm not a genius in business, but if you spend $1.5 billion and you get $21 million for it, you need to raise like $20 billion if you're going to have a business. Anyway, that's one example of a failure. Another is Hyundai Supernal. This is not yet a failure. It's paused. Because Hyundai, they have enough money, they don't have to kill something. They can just say, well, let's hold off on this. Ironically, this is a building they built at CES that I shot this in January, this last year in January. They built a building to show this thing, and unveil it to the press. It was like a really, really big deal. Very secretive. We're going to do this big old thing. This is so big. They had control stations. They showed mission control, and now all of a sudden they're just pausing it. And that gets back to the idea of the high cash burn rate. I want you to think about vehicles in a different way. They're really different categories. There are, in fact, flying cars, although it's kind of a stretch. But everyone likes to talk about flying cars because that's sort of the sexy thing to say. When I tell people I talk about flying cars, like, yeah, right. But I'll show you what they really are. The first category is the personal aerial vehicle. These are companies like Lyft, Rise Aero, Jetson. There actually is a company called Jetson. I don't know how they got the name, but they have it. And it's actually Jetson, and they have the Jetson 1 is the vehicle. These are ultralight category. You don't need FAA approval to fly these things. You don't have to have a pilot's license. There are certain restrictions. They can only go 63 miles an hour. They can't fly in controlled airspace, obviously. You can fly them like in a field. They're really good for over a farm, like a farmer. Farms are really big. I mean, there are really big farms. So a farmer can take it and fly to somewhere in his farm to check something, then fly back. Done. Then there's the personal aerial vehicle certified. These are the vehicles that you do need a pilot's license for, at least today. You will in the future, likely as well. This is Doroni Aerospace on the east coast of Florida. AREV is an Israeli outfit that I saw literally Monday on the east coast in Indiantown, Florida. And these are coming. These would be a 1 or 2 passenger vehicle that you'd park in your garage. And then there's the commercial. This is where the big money is, the commercial aerial vehicle. These are the air taxis. Joby, Archer, and Beta are the 3 major players in that arena. And I'll give you some little detail of that. So those are the different categories of vehicles in addition to the flying cars, which we'll end with here. This is an example of a personal aerial vehicle. This is the Zapata Air Scooter from France. This was shown in Miami recently. Again, anybody can fly these things. It's not magic. You can take a lesson for like 15 or 20 minutes, and they run by joystick, and off you go. The Dragon personal air vehicle, same thing. Some of these companies aren't going to make it, by the way. I have no vested interest in any of these companies. I don't have stock in any, unfortunately, or fortunately in some cases. Could have, but didn't, just because it's a conflict of interest. So I'm totally independent on all this stuff. This is Lyft. Lyft is a company out of Austin, Texas. And at Sun and Fun in Lakeland a year ago, they had this vehicle where you could pay a couple $100s to fly it. And what you do is you train in a simulator, and I know someone in the simulator business here, and you train in a simulator, but not like your simulator. It's like a toy simulator kind of thing, for 15 or 20 minutes, and then you get in the vehicle, and you actually go fly it. Now, the reality is there are geo fences, which are basically invisible technology fences, so they only go so high. They've got invisible walls, so you can't really kind of do any damage, really. You can't go take off from Sun and Fun and go fly to Orlando or something. That's like not going to happen. But these things, they sold out. I mean, they were selling like $250 a ride, and there were lines for people to do it to sell out. And they did this for weeks. And they sold out like all the time. This vehicle has flown all over the world. And this is just one example of a kind of flying vehicle. This is the Jetson 1 from Jetson. It's a smaller flying vehicle. The interesting thing about this is will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas is one of the investors. So will.i.am, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's a really intelligent guy. And he's into all kinds of things. So this was very logical for him to say, oh, yeah, I want one of these. They did their first delivery of this 2 weeks ago. They sold one, and someone actually took delivery. This is a test they did in Poland. Again, this is a global phenomenon, and they were looking for mountain rescue, using these for mountain rescue. They went 4,000 feet, and this is a sort of a government approved kind of thing, just as a test. This is the Rise Aero. That's me flying that. I'm not a pilot. I don't pretend to be a pilot, but as I was researching this, I wanted to see what this thing was like. So I went to Rise Aero outside of Cincinnati and got the little training, and then flew the thing, and it was really kind of fun. I wouldn't have bought one, but anyway, this company is still looking for financing. So it's second category, the personal aerial vehicle certified. These are the Doroni and ARB. Like this is the Doroni. This is their prototype. They've been developing this for years, like quite a few years. They had a flying prototype, and they scratched that and moved to a different model. They just got $15 million funding from the Mideast, so they're financially backed. They're in Pompano, and they've got a simulator and so forth. And this was Monday. I was at Indiantown, Florida. This is the CEO and founder of Air EV, and they have a flying vehicle. It'll be certified. And if you look at that slide on the right, that's the U.S. Army. They have sold these to the military. The military is behind a lot of this stuff because it's functional, not necessarily to move people, but to move stuff. Because in the military, logistics is really key, and these things are really, really good at logistics. So you can put something in it, close it, off it goes, it knows where to go, it's quiet, it gets there precisely. This is the actual Air One vehicle. They did fly it there. It went 400 or 500 feet. It went out of sight, came back at this tiny little airport. I don't know if anyone, I'm sure you've never been to the Indiantown airport. It is really in the middle of nowhere. And it's a small airport, but it's where they're set up, and it's logical. So this is an Israeli company. They have a 30,000 square foot manufacturing facility in central Israel. And they're moving it to Florida. So there's an example. They're now established on the west coast of Florida, and that's where they're going to be. So the commercial, this is where the money is. This is where the big players are, and I mean like serious money. This is Joby Aviation, Archer, and Beta Technologies. This is the Joby Aviation. This is at an event they did in Abu Dhabi that I was at, where they had all these things, and they were all these things were flying, by the way. I mean these things do in fact fly, in test mode, of course. Joby Aviation is tied up with Virgin. They're also tied up with Delta Airlines, and they've raised $2 billion, more than $2 billion now so far. They got $894 million just from Toyota. So you can see that they're really tied in with the very major brands. These aren't little startups. These are going to be big businesses, and there are big businesses behind it. And they're working with the Air Force. Archer Aviation, again, they're the other very major player. They've raised $2 billion. It's a 4-passenger vehicle with a pilot and a little bit of luggage. And their goal is to do 20 to 50-mile trips. That's what these things are designed for, basically quick back and forth. You go from JFK to downtown in 10 minutes, or from Heathrow to downtown in 15 minutes. If you could do that in London instead of what you have to do in London, like that would be amazing to happen. And then they have a 10-minute charge. They have to keep running back and forth. They're tied up with United Airlines. And they're going to be doing the New York taxi business. These things are actually getting set up for a shuttle. Signature Aviation, which is the major player here in Orlando, which I'm sure you're all aware of, they're partnering with the whole United Archer deal, which is a really innovation thing. The point is there are significant, really great companies behind this stuff. It's not like just a startup that's going to kind of try to wing it. Beta Technologies, they're in Burlington, Vermont, of all places, which actually is a really great place. My two sons went to school there. My wife was from there, so I'm very familiar with Burlington. They've raised $1 billion next month. In a few weeks, they're going public on the New York Stock Exchange at an expected $7 billion valuation. Interesting about Beta, they have multiple versions of the ecosystem. They have a vertical takeoff and landing. They have a conventional takeoff and landing, which doesn't need as long a runway. And they have a battery charging business, which is tied in with Archer. So they're really good because they're in the entire infrastructure part of the business. SkyDrive in Japan, their idea is to fly people from a house to house. Because their congestion is so bad in Japan. They've been flying these things. They're backed by Suzuki, and that's where they'll be manufacturing them. And now I have to talk about flying cars to give you the reality of flying cars. This is an actual flying car. This is what they look like, and I'll tell you about the practicality of it. This was shown at the Detroit Auto Show. It was at CES as well, and we've all seen it. And it does in fact fly. The issue is you can't take this on Route 4 or any other legit road. Well, actually, Route 4 legit road, I don't know. Anyway, highway. You can't really drive it on a highway. It's not that kind of a vehicle, and it doesn't fly like the flying vehicle. So it's kind of it's not the best of both worlds, just to be kind. More interesting approaches. This is the XPeng Aerohost. This is from China. This has been shown for the last 2 years. This is a very real thing. XPeng is a really big automotive company in China, so they have incredible manufacturing facilities. They've got a lot of muscle behind them. This is a vehicle that drives along, and see that back that's opened up? Out of that comes this device, which is the flying vehicle. the flying vehicle, and they are flying it. The CEO of the company has flown this thing. We've seen videos of it. And this then goes back into the vehicle, and while it's in the vehicle charges it from the motor, from its power. So this is a really big play. It's really kind of the best approach in terms of a flying vehicle, because you've got a vehicle on the road and you have a vehicle flying component, but it's not necessarily the same thing. They've been certified by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, so they are in fact flying, and they are testing. This is really interesting. Samson Sky, their case study in my book as well. A lot of these people, all these companies are in my book. Samson Sky, they have a Switchblade. It does over 100 miles an hour on land. It does over 100 miles an hour in the air. And when I interviewed the CEO, Sam, I said, so when did you start this? Well, it was 18 years ago. I said, how long did you think it was going to take? He said, a couple of years. I said, how is it going? He said, I'm still not there. And they're using Boeing air tunnels and testing, but they are flying this thing. They are flying it. This uses regular fuel. You actually drive up to a gas station, put gas in it, and then you drive it to the airport, and at the airport, the wings open, and they're pretty quickly, and then it takes off. And Sam, in the course of this, I said, so you're a pilot? He said, I wasn't when I started this 18 years ago, but I am now, because I got my license along the way, figuring I'm going to be doing this for a lot of years. I might as well figure out how to fly it. Then there's the Klein Vision. This was shown in Beverly Hills just a few months ago in May. This is supposedly going on sale next year. This, in fact, does fly. And that Klein Vision has been very innovative in this whole space, so I wouldn't discount them. But again, it's not necessarily something you'd put in your garage. Ehang Holding, another very interesting company in China. They're flying these things all over the place. These they're two-passenger vehicles. They fly without a pilot. They don't have pilots, and they've been flying like all over the place for more than a year now. And they do in fact fly. They land. They take off. I've seen them fly. This is the actual version on the ground. It's relatively small. The unfortunate thing is you have to kind of walk in between the blades to get there. It's kind of scary to get on board. But other than that, this will not be certified in the U.S., I assure you. But it's flying in other countries, very big in UAE. Fly Now Aviation, this is a one-person vehicle. See, I'm sitting it on the right there, just show you how scary it is. I mean, heaven forbid they close that front of it. I would be out of there in like a second. But anyway, this is really going to start by moving cargo. It's not going to be moving people. Again, these are for cargo. It's a lot safer to move cargo to state the obvious. You can also get approval to move cargo a lot easier than you get approval to move people, which is really difficult. They're going to be flying vehicle showrooms. This is from PAL V in Germany. They have a showroom for their vehicle. Their vehicle does fly as well, and they call it a flying car. But they only call it flying cars because they also have wheels and they can kind of go on a physical surface. But it's not really like a car that you would have, in my opinion. Maybe you will. We'll see. This is something they're doing on the east coast of Florida, Royal Palm Beach. This is a vehicle from Australia that they would be showing in there. But their idea is that you'd have a showroom, just like a car showroom, and someone would come in and look at the different kinds of vehicles. Because longer term, there are going to be a lot of these vehicles. When you talk about quantum, and the sky is going to be filled with these things, and what quantum can handle an infinite number of variables, and that's what you're going to need these things with, things at 30 and 32,000 feet, things at 3,000 feet, things at 800 feet. You're going to need something tracking all that stuff, which is a really lot of technology. This is Luftkar. This is another case study in my book. This is one of the really interesting approaches. This, I believe, in my opinion, is the best approach to a flying car, if you will. There's a flying component, which they call the flying forklift, and it flies, and it comes down, and it basically then attaches to a vehicle, a regular vehicle, and then it picks up the vehicle, flies, and then to go where it's going, and then it stops, and then the vehicle goes out. So that's kind of the approach, because then to think about a flying car, you need to get the DMV in any particular state or city or region, the DMV and the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, to approve these things, which is really, really difficult. The FAA is all over this, by the way. I mean, you're not going to be flying these things until they're totally approved and totally approved safe. For any constellation, every person I interviewed in the book, and it's a lot of people, every single person I interviewed, safety was the first thing they talked about. It's like safety and then all else. So safety is a really big deal in the infrastructure and the DNA of the industry. Lufcar also has an AI vertiport planning tool. So just like AI is everything else, it's obviously coming into this space as well. There are companies using AI to develop their vehicles, and they're going to continue to do that. So if anyone wants to subscribe to my newsletter, again, this is just click on this. It's free. We don't bombard you with a lot of stuff, and you can read about flying vehicles pretty much all the time. Anyway, thank you so much for all of your attention. I appreciate it, and rock Orlando.